We're back, folks. We are back. Man, it feels good to just be able to sit here, be in front of this microphone. I feel like it's just been so long. I feel like it's been months, and really I think it's probably been about a month, close to 4 weeks since we've been back. But welcome back here, everybody, to In Hindsight. You're probably wondering, why have I been gone all this time? I haven't really been posting a lot of really anything on my Facebook page, my social media. I've kind of been sticking of a low profile. And I've just been, excuse me, that's going to be a leeway into why I haven't been here. So, I was actually sick for probably about a good 2.5 weeks. 3 weeks, probably. And this was actually the first time, this is definitely the sickest I was. Ever since I moved back here to, PA and everything. And so, because I remember going to the Steelers and Lions game, and I was going to do a show, and then I started getting sick. So really, I'd say for probably about the last 3 weeks, not now anymore, but I would say probably for like the last 3 weeks or so, I've been, I was sick, and what it was is that I just had really a combination of everything, and got the big C, had a little bit of pneumonia, and then really after that, really once all that stuff kind of cleared, I just had this lingering cough, man. So once all that cleared, if I came back on this show last week, it would have been half an hour of me coughing the whole show. So I didn't really post anything on social media. I haven't really kept up to date with things, which I know I should have, maybe given heads up in regards of why there's going to be shows. But the thing is, I don't know. I mean, I should have, and I apologize for anybody that may have been wondering. But honestly, a lot of my listeners are people I engage with and interact with, so it's like they kind of already have known, kind of what's been going on, really, I feel like. But yeah, so we're definitely over all that. We've, everything's kind of gone out of our system. But it's great to be back, and I thank each and every one of you for tuning in, and I'm excited just to get back here and just continuing to grow this thing by the week. And I even had to miss some work. I wasn't really able to do much of anything, and obviously I couldn't really go out anywhere. So yeah, it wasn't fun. It was definitely, I'd say, the sickest I've been in quite a while. But we managed. We made it through. Thank God for that. But yeah, it's good to be back. Like I said, I can't even tell you the exact date was the last date that I've recorded. But I know it's probably been about 3.5, 4 weeks since the last time I've been on here. But yeah, so pretty much what we're going to be talking about this show, I just kind of want to go over everything that's really come out of really the weekend. I kind of want to look at the playoff picture because it's very interesting in the AFC side. So I definitely would like to kind of intermingle about that, talk about that a little bit. We have some little bit of news coming out of the NFL. So I kind of want to get into that. MLB free agency still underway. So those are definitely some things that we can get into a little bit here, and that we'll definitely get into future shows, because with it being the offseason, there's still a lot of guys who haven't signed yet. Winter meetings are around the corner. All this different kind of stuff. So, I don't know. Did winter meetings even happen already? Let me see. I don't even know. Did winter meetings happen? Let me see. MLB winter meetings. I'm pretty sure they haven't. Or have they? Yeah, they have. December 6th and 9th. Okay, I guess they did already. I don't remember seeing any news about winter meetings. Hold on. But anyway, there's still free agents out there, still guys to sign. We'll kind of go over. It's been a pretty crazy MLB free agency frenzy so far. So we'll kind of briefly go over that because it's not new news with things with guys we're going to talk about. But I definitely want to go over it, and kind of look at the outlook of some of maybe what, the progress of those teams. But anyway, hopefully with, speaking of football, fantasy football postseason playoffs are underway. I'm in 2 leagues. I've been in 2 leagues. I have my league that I run, and I gotta give a shout out to everybody in my league because it was hard fought all year. It was the most competitive my league has ever been, and we have a 12-man league PPR. So it was like looking at both divisions because I have it set up in 2 divisions each. Both divisions, man. I mean, coming down to the wire, 5-6 guys could have got in. It was absolutely crazy. And so I'm really proud of my league, man. It was a lot of fun. I didn't make the postseason again in my league. I'm on a 3-year drought getting into the postseason, but it is what it is. Hard fought, man. I finished 7-7, which I actually predicted weeks ago. Because it's either I'm an average team or I get in the playoffs. It's one or the other, and there's no in between. But shout out to everybody. Shout out to just everybody who played in my league this year, man. We have a lot of OGs in there still. We have some a few new guys that have been in the league for the first time this year. Some guys who have been in the league for 2-3 years now. So I've had this league going for 6 years. 6 years? Yeah, this is the 6th year. And then I'm also in another league that I've been in for since 2015. So, long time. And I did win that league the very first time. Haven't won it since. But I actually finished as the number 1 seed in that one. And so my focus is obviously on that and trying to win that league. But just want to give a shout out to everybody there. Should be interesting. I'm actually very fascinated to see who comes out on top. But we'll see what happens. Also, this isn't sport related, but I officially got my tickets to Spider-Man No Way Home. Hopefully you guys did. I cannot wait for this movie, man. It's crazy. Yesterday was the red carpet premiere. An internal showing was happening. And from what I was seeing, there's been like 50-some reviews for Rotten Tomatoes. Everybody's given it 100, which is amazing. I have very high expectations for this movie. I think we all know why. We're all very excited, not just seeing all these villains back on screen again that we all kind of grew up watching, but obviously Toby and Andrew are 100% going to be in this movie, and I cannot wait to see them reprise their roles alongside Tom Holland. Going to be phenomenal. I will be there Friday night. But anyway, guys, thank you all for tuning in to IHS here in hindsight. Like I said, it's great to be back, and given that this is a Tuesday, this will probably be uploaded, well, considering the time I'm recording right now, it'll probably be uploaded around 7:30, 7:45, most likely. As long as YouTube can go by things correctly, that's the time I think we're all looking at here. Looking at the schedule this week, we're probably going to try to put out content Thursday or Friday. I have to work Saturday, so we're not going to be able to do a Saturday show, like I said. Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday are the days I like to, but sometimes you just have to maneuver things around. It is what it is. Until this would ever become like a full-time gig for me. But that's a ways away. But let's get into it, guys. Let's get into it. I want to go over... I'm going to go over here certain games from this past week, man. And... let me see here. I'm just going to be pulling up the games from this week. Now, I'm going to start off with Thursday night. And obviously, I'm a Steeler fan. So this isn't going to be me reviewing the Steeler game really like I do in certain days and stuff like that. So the Steelers played the Vikings on Thursday night this past week. And I was highly confident they were going to win this game. Going into it, like once the season started, I said it's definitely a game they could lose. But I think with that big win against Baltimore, I was really hoping, and I had hope, and I had a little bit of optimism in regards of them just getting back on track and rolling, and obviously they didn't. The defense has been a complete disaster for them this year, which I think is surprising to a lot of people. And TJ Watt's obviously been great. Cam Hayward's been great. But other than that, it's just been they can't stop a run. The secondaries has had its moments all year. So it's definitely disappointing they lost, but you know what, man? Watching that game Thursday night, it just says to me just the heart Big Ben has. I mean, when they were down, what was it, 29-0, 29-7, whatever it was, the Steelers could have sat Big Ben the rest of the game, put in Rudolph, but I give them the offense so much credit and Big Ben and everybody for just not giving up and just the heart and just the amazing comeback that they had in general, and they almost tied the game. And I think it just shows to me, if you don't think Big Ben's the ultimate competitor, if you don't think Big Ben's a legend, I don't know what to tell you at that point. I don't really think you're really a sports fan or you really appreciate greatness to begin with. But it absolutely was a great comeback. But again, the Steelers defense ran all over that game, over 200 plus yards given up just from Dalvin Cook alone. There's just a lot of changes for them, regardless if they can get in the playoffs or not. A lot of changes need to come this offseason, and I'm expecting that, because as well, the Steelers also finally have a lot of cap room to work with, and this is the first time in years since they've had that, because I swear every offseason they're stuck against cap, they're trying to figure out room for it, and finally they have a lot of cap to work with. So they definitely got to make major moves, playoffs or not. I don't know. But I'm approaching this as I'm just going to enjoy this ride of Big Ben. I've been a fan of Big Ben since elementary school. I've been a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I started getting into football since elementary school. I'm 23 years old now. So I've been watching and I've been a fan for quite a long time. And I just want to enjoy the ride. And I think really that's what every Steeler fan's mindset should be. I think it should be, they're still alive in the division. They're still alive trying to get a playoff spot. And they got 2 big divisional games coming up. But I think the perspective is, regardless if they get it or not, enjoy the time you got seeing Big Ben play left, man. That's all I can say. But honestly, a great comeback by them in the really fourth quarter of that Thursday night game. I give a ton of credit to Big Ben, man. It's just that offensive line's dreadful. They give him absolute zero time. They don't protect him. Kendrick Green doesn't know when to snap a ball. They've obviously been terrible at run blocking for Najee Harris. And what's to say about Najee Harris, man? They can't run block it for him. The dude will take a gain of nothing into a gain of 5 or 6. I mean, the dude, that just alone speaks to how good he is. And once you get him somewhat of a better O-line to work with and create gaps for him, it's just going to be that much better. Obviously, that's another discussion for another time. That will happen in the offseason, because you would imagine you have to go up from here. You can't get worse. You can't get worse. And I said it last year and they got worse, but I think at this point you can't get worse. But anyway, kudos to the Vikings too. Just really taking advantage of how garbage the run defense is for this team. Vikings are still in it too at 6-7. I find it funny. I find it funny that the Raiders wanted to do a little celebration on the Chiefs logo. They get blown up 49-8. So, really this week, other than that Thursday night game, really looking at these games this week, there wasn't really... I mean, the Browns and Ravens was... ended up being good. I didn't get to watch any of it. I was out of town. Bills and Buccaneers was a great game. Niners and Bengals was a great game. Monday night game was a little interesting last night. But you know what, man? I got, Kansas City, there's a lot of people, including myself, that counted Kansas City out this year. And the reason why I counted them out was because of how dreadful their defense was into the middle half of the season. Mahomes hasn't really had all that great of a year. But I give a lot of credit to Kansas City now, because they're really these last, I don't know, what do you want to say? These last 4 games, these last 4 weeks, 5 weeks in particular, they've really have turned the ship. And it was, I'm like, Kansas City cannot have this phenomenal season. Mahomes cannot have this all-time great season every year. It's not going to happen. There's going to be down seasons. There's going to be years where Mahomes doesn't get in the playoffs. There's going to be years where the Chiefs don't get in the playoffs. It's the way it is. It happens with every team. But Kansas City's defense did do a major turnaround, which is hard to do at the middle point of the season. and Mahomes and the offense has really turned a corner. And this is the time especially for them to do it. So with how well they've been playing these last 5 weeks in particular or so, maybe you could say another week or two than that, but they're definitely looking like the Kansas City Chiefs that we know them as and that we've known them as the last 3 years. So that's definitely a big watch out for the AFC. Carolina loses again to Atlanta. Cam Newton was benched. And this sucks too. With Cam Newton signing back with the Panthers 3 weeks ago, I'm like, all right, this is great. I've always been a big fan of Cam. And then when the Panthers won that game with him being back, okay, great. And I was actually kind of hoping, I'm like, I'd actually like to see Carolina get in the playoffs. But obviously that's not happening. Cam Newton is still what Cam Newton's been the last 2 years. He's terrible. Carolina has a lot that they got to do themselves too to figure out in this offseason. But let me know in the comment section, do you guys really think that Cam Newton is going to be a starter anywhere else the rest of his career? It's honestly hard to see that at this point. It was a cool, fun renaissance, reunion with Cam and Carolina and stuff like that. But do we really see Cam Newton being a starter anywhere else this year? No, we don't. He'll probably be a backup somewhere. Maybe he'll stick with Carolina for a little bit till they figure out their quarterback thing. I don't know. But it sucks because it would have been cool to see. But again, it is what it is. Ravens lose to the Browns. Now, Lamar Jackson got hurt, I guess, very early on in this game. He sprained his ankle. He was out for the game. Tyler Huntley, you got to give a lot of credit to as a backup. He got them back into this game. But Cleveland, I think they were up, what were they up? Like 20 nothing or something like that? 24 nothing or whatever? I don't remember what it was because I didn't watch the game. But again, this just makes the AFC North that much interesting. I don't think the AFC North is good at all. I think all 4 teams are 1 week you can say this team's the best team in the AFC North, and you can say the next week that team's the best team in the AFC North. The AFC North has been so up and down this year. It's been so inconsistent. I don't think any of those 4 teams are going to have really much success in the playoffs, whichever 1 or 2 get in. But it does make for an interesting rest of the season because Baltimore's lost 2 in a row. Cleveland is up at 7-6. Cincinnati lost. They're at 7-6, and the Steelers are at 6-1. So it is going to make for a very interesting last week of the season or so to determine who's going to win this division. And all 4 teams can still win it, 100%. But we'll have to keep an eye on Lamar Jackson's health. And look, folks, I've been saying it. I'm not saying this as a Steeler fan. I'm not saying this because I don't like the Ravens. I said this when the season started. I am not very confident in this Ravens team this year. Now, the Ravens have been plummeted by a lot of injuries, from J.K. Dobbins to Gus Edwards to, I know Deshaun Elliott's out, now Marlon Humphrey's out. Marcus Peters, obviously, has missed the whole entire year. L.J. Fort, who has been a pretty productive inside linebacker for them the last 2 years. They have been plummeted by a lot of injuries, very similar to what we saw with a couple teams last year. With that being said, though, okay, and I don't want to count the Marlon Humphrey injury because he just got hurt now. I don't necessarily want to count the Deshaun Elliott injury because it's not like he's been out ever since the start of the season. So more so the 2 running backs, Marcus Peters and LJ Fort, okay? With those guys out, and yes, Marcus Peters not having, the Ravens not really having that turnover playmaker guy in the secondary. Marcus Peters is that guy, right? But the Ravens secondary has been the worst secondary in all of football pretty much all year long. I don't really think that there needs to be some changes on that defensive line going into next season. But I said when the season started, I do not think the Ravens are going to be this juggernaut. I do not think the Ravens are going to be a top-tier team, the AFC. I said that they'll probably be a double-digit win team. They'll probably find their way into the playoffs, possibly. But I wasn't big on them. I was skeptical about their offensive line. I've been skeptical about Lamar. Lamar's been terrible the last 5 weeks. I'm not really counting this week. So really the last month, he's been awful. But the Ravens could definitely choke this, man. And the Ravens have a lot of work they got to do in next year's offseason, just like the Steelers do. I didn't like I still didn't like some of their personnel. I wasn't crazy about some of the guys on their front seven. I was just thinking they were going to take a step back this season than what we've seen the last 2 years, and I still think they've done that. Even though they're sitting at 8-5 right now, and they're still number one in the division, just because they're number one in the division doesn't mean that they're a good team, doesn't mean any of that. They can still win the division, they can still get in the playoffs, but I think they've been a lucky team a lot this year. They've snuck by some wins. I give them credit on some of the wins and coming back from, but they're not a dominant team. They've obviously have taken a big step back defensively, offensively. They need to regroup and make some changes themselves, but they're an up and down team, just like Cleveland is, just like the Steelers are, just like the Bengals are. And it'll be very interesting to see this AFC North team, but regardless of who gets in, I don't think any team's going to be very successful in the playoffs this year. But that's just, I've said that about the Ravens when they started. They have some good talent there, but I didn't like the group that they were bringing in this season in particular areas, and I thought it was going to, they were going to be taking a step back, which I think that they have. Let's see, Denver gets the win, so they get, they kind of move up a little bit more in the hunt in the playoffs. Chargers defeat the Giants. They're still in the wild card spot. Buffalo, man. Buffalo, I was hearing all season long, Buffalo is going to be the number one team in the AFC. I was saying they'll probably be top 2, top 3. I said going in the season that they're definitely coming out of the AFC, one of the more Super Bowl favorites, which I think everybody was saying. But I was hearing, I think, a little more overreaction from Buffalo in the offseason. But Buffalo, man, they're a complete disaster right now, too. Their defense has been pretty good, I want to say, throughout the majority of the season. But, man, they've just had a lot of issues offensively these last 4 or 5 weeks. Josh Allen hasn't been the Josh Allen we know that he's capable of. All that stuff in between. Buffalo, New England right now is leading that division. Buffalo could still get in the playoffs, but hey, if they miss out, they miss out. And they've just been, I don't know what it is. I mean, so like I said, I'm not sitting here, I'm obviously not a Buffalo fan. I don't watch their games weekly. But from what I see, they just haven't been able to produce enough offensively. They're not that explosive offense the last month. I don't know what it is. They lost Tre'Davious White, which sucks. They still have some good playmakers on their defense, I think. But there's just a lot of mishap right now going on there, and they got to turn that around quick right now if they want to get in. San Francisco defeats the Bengals. San Francisco's still in the playoffs. So it honestly wasn't really too crazy of a week. I think other than Thursday night game, the Bills and Buccaneers game those were probably the only two really intriguing games, I feel like. But I want to look at the outlook of the AFC and NFC playoff picture. And really what we can see. Yeah, the Athletic. Let me go on the Athletic. Let me pay a subscription just to look at the standings. Freak out of here. Okay. So, in the East, obviously New England's leading their division. The West, the Chiefs are up by 1 game, really. Separates them and the Chargers. They play Thursday night. That should be a great game. Ravens are up 8 in their division. And then the Titans are 9-4. But the Colts are still lingering around. That's the thing. Looking at this AFC, okay, this is, I feel like, the first year in quite a while where to me, there is still not a team in the AFC that's just like, yep, that's them. Or you have those 2-3 teams in the AFC, like that 1-2, like those 2 teams, possibly that 3rd team in the AFC that's like cream of the crop, right? You don't have that this year. New England, you can probably say, is probably the best team in the AFC right now. I think with what Kansas City's been doing these last 5 weeks, you can definitely say they've become that. But it's balanced, and I feel like any team in the AFC this year can beat any team in the AFC this year. I don't think an AFC team is going to win the Super Bowl. I really don't. New England, 9-4, they're most likely going to win their division. They've won 7 in a row. Their defense has really come together this season. Their run game has been off the charts. Mac Jones has made plays. And then you got Kansas City and the Ravens. But that's the thing. You look at all these teams that are still in the hunt. The Browns, the Bengals, the Steelers. Chargers are already a wild card team. Broncos are still in the hunt. Bills, I believe, are still a wild card team. So even the Raiders are still in there. So, and the Colts are a wild team right now. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, not counting division winners, 5, 6. Hold on, not counting the wild cards. Let me repeat that. Not counting wild card teams. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 6 teams right now in the AFC that are non-wild card teams that could still get in or even possibly win their division, which is crazy. That's just the way the AFC has been. Now, if I'm looking at this right now with 4 games left to go, right? 4 games? 3 games. No, 4 games. We got 4 games left. New England, I think, is going to win the East. New England, I think, is going to win the East. And I got to look at schedules coming up, so I don't necessarily want to put in standings how I think teams are going to finish. I do think with the way Kansas City's defense has really turned around and how things are clicking, and this is the time you want to click, especially if you're the Chiefs or a Chiefs fan. This is the time you want to do that. So kudos to the Chiefs. The Chiefs, I think, will win the West again for, what is that, the 6th year in a row now? Who do I think wins the North? To be quite honest with you, this is hard because I think any team at this point can do it. I think Cleveland is honestly the favorite to win the AFC North right now because the Steelers, it's just hard for me to have faith in them with how their defense is. And, I think Big Ben could be able to get them there. He's not part of the problem. With how bad their defense is, it's hard for me to have any faith in this team stopping anybody. I feel like they've just kind of blown it in multiple games this year, and that's their own doing. Cincinnati's way too up and down, I think, to win it. And the Ravens, Lamar, who knows, but the Ravens are just not healthy, and they just haven't been playing good football for the last month, in my opinion. They haven't really played that great of football really all year, to be honest with you, outside maybe a few games. But I think Cleveland, at this point in time, I think that I'll pick them to win it. Sure. And then the South, I think the Titans win it. Now, if we're going to go into a wild card situation, I think we see the Chargers get in. I think we see the Colts get in. And I think we see the Bills get in. So I'm going to say no Ravens, no Bengals, no Steelers, no Broncos, no Raiders. Heck, even Miami's still in it. I forgot them at 7. That's it right now. Now, I haven't looked at schedules or anything like that, so you can let me know in the comments section your guys' thoughts on the AFC playoff picture. Let me know you agree, disagree, or not. I don't know. But that's how I'm looking at it right now. But the AFC North's the most interesting simply because this could come down the last week to who wins this game. Or who wins this division. Going to the NFC, Cowboys are obviously taking their division. The Rams pulled with their win last night. That's a big win. They pull a game closer to first, and Green Bay's going to win the North. And Tampa Bay, obviously, you might as well give them the South right now. So I still think the Cardinals win the West, man. I've been very impressed with what the Cardinals have done all year from a defensive standpoint. They've just been so balanced. They've been so steady defensively all year, and that's even not having J.J. Watt. So I give him a lot of credit on that. Kyler's playmaker, James Connors, kind of, resurfaced himself. DeAndre is DeAndre. But the Rams are still there. The Rams are still there. I know some people have been down on the Rams the last few weeks. I still wasn't really, just because, teams are going to have up and downs. But with the talent they have and what they're capable of doing, they can definitely still make a play in the playoffs for sure. So, Cowboys, I still think Cardinals win the West, Packers win the North, Buccaneers win the South. Now, this is interesting too. So, you have the Rams as a wild card, you have the Niners as a wild card, and I believe the other team is either Washington or Minnesota as the wild card. But one or the other is still in the hunt. The Eagles are still in the hunt. Atlanta and the Saints are all 6 and 7 still in the hunt, and Carolina and Seattle's still there technically too. So it's not as interesting as the AFC, but there's still a lot of teams. The playoff picture could change in the next week. So I don't know. It's very interesting. I think who's going to get in though? I think we see the Rams and Niners get in, and I think we're going to see. I think we see Minnesota probably sneak in as that last team. But it's very interesting, guys. It's very interesting. Let me know your comments. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section in regards to who you think is going to win certain divisions, who you think is going to come out in this playoff picture. But I just don't know. But speaking of Cleveland, though, there's actually news, man. There's been a lot of COVID positive tests that happened today in the NFL. Cleveland's got a lot of guys on that list, so who knows how that's going to impact them next week. I believe Baltimore plays Green Bay. Steelers play the Titans. I got to look at the Bengals schedule for next week. But it's very interesting, man, and it's going to come down. It's all going to come down to the wire. And but it's just, I don't know, dude. Like the AFC, I don't think like I said, I don't think an AFC team wins the Super Bowl. I really don't. I think there's multiple teams in the NFC that are better than the top 1-2 seeds in the AFC themselves. So it's just one of those seasons where it's just where those AFC teams, they just kind of balance themselves out, you know? Like, you don't know what you get from a lot of these teams from one week to the next. So, I don't know on that. But I think really just kind of recouping from... hold on a second. I think really just kind of recouping everything from the last few weeks and just seeing where teams are at. The AFC's been the same all year long. But one guy, Jonathan Taylor, has been absolutely incredible. And I think he's the dude alone that has kept the Colts in their wild card spot. Looking at MVP situations, I mean, you know, there's Aaron, Tom, I think probably one of them are going to get it, but Jonathan Taylor's definitely a guy I think that you can definitely put up there, especially if the Colts make the playoffs, for some votes, for some consideration. We know it's a quarterback award. We know that. But Jonathan Taylor, I think, will definitely win Offensive Player of the Year. And he's just been an absolute beast. But I'm going to transition from the NFL, guys. Going over the standings, the current playoff picture, kind of who I see happening, or who I see getting in, or what battles, you know, we see happening in that. I just kind of wanted to briefly go over that, briefly kind of go over some of the games. There isn't really too much news coming out of the week this week, from an injury standpoint or things of that kind of nature. But I'm going to transition real quick into MLB free agency. And, again, this isn't new news, but Justin Verlander's contract with the Astros officially hit today. 2-year deal, $50 million. But Corey Seager and Marcus Semien both going to Texas. And Texas has been in a rebuilding stage. We know this. But them going out signing those two guys, number one, those are two of the best guys you can get on the market right now. Number two, it speaks a lot that Texas feels they're ready to take that step forward this upcoming season. They like the young guys they got. They think these two can bring a good veteran element in the middle of that batting order as well. Very interesting to see how Texas fares this offseason. Baez goes from the Mets to the Tigers. 6-year, $140 million deal. I think Baez is one of the most overrated players in the MLB. But Detroit gets a little bit of power. Detroit isn't there yet in regards to competing, but they got some good young prospects and guys that are going to be coming up soon to possibly make some noise. Max Scherzer to the Mets, which I think did surprise some people. 3 years, $130 million going from the Dodgers to the Mets. So DeGrom and Scherzer is definitely, you know, a phenomenal 1-2 punch. You really can't get much better than that. And then they add Starling Marte, right? Michael Conforto for the Mets is still a free agent, but you look at Lindor, you look at Pete Alonso there, you look at, did they bring back, hold on, no, okay. Let me pull up the Mets depth chart right there, because I know I'm forgetting a couple guys. But the Mets, like you got Taijuan Walker, who I still think's a decent piece in a rotation. You know, you got, Jeff McNeil, Robinson Cano is going to be back, especially if the DH comes to the NL. That could work out there. They did sign Eduardo Escobar, who was with the Brewers. He has some pop there. Mark Canha from the A's also went to the Mets. The Mets were very, and they're probably going to be done, but very, very active. So if you're a Mets fan, you're definitely excited. The Mets are obviously wanting to take that leap forward, but having DeGrom, Scherzer, and then the back end, a guy like a Taijuan Walker, Carlos Carrasco, they got to get better than Trevor Williams, man. I'm not a fan of Trevor Williams at all. I honestly never really have been. But then you got Pete Alonso there, middle of the order. Jeff McNeil, top of the order. Eduardo Escobar, give you some more pop. Lindor, I think, is a little overrated, but, you know, he still can provide some good things in that lineup. Mark Canha, underrated outfielder. Starling Marte, absolutely underrated outfielder at the top of the order. And then you got Brandon Nimmo and Dominic Smith, also if they have a DH too, and then Robbie Cano. So the Mets are definitely going to be interesting. I don't know what it is. I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets blew this and for some reason just didn't exceed expectations. But the Mets having to compete with Atlanta as well, wanted to go out, spend some cash. So if you're a Mets fan, definitely excited for that. Eduardo Rodriguez went to the Tigers, 5 years, $77 million deal. So Boston's probably looking for another guy. Chicago, I think this was a definitely underrated signing for Chicago. They have a pretty weak starting rotation, and obviously they're in a transition period as well right now. But Marcus Stroman, 3 years, $71 million deal to the Cubs. Be back there behind Hendricks right there as that 2-3 guy. Not a bad move at all. He had a pretty good year last year, I thought, for the Mets overall, generally speaking. Noah Syndergaard goes to the Angels, which on a 1-year deal coming off Tommy John, that's going to be a good kind of step away from, kind of a, I don't know what you want to call it, more of a, I don't know what's the word you want to call it. I'm blanking out here. But it's more of a, kind of prove-it deal, I guess, if you want to call it for him. A prove-it year. And just kind of, he hasn't really had that much luck the last couple years, so change of scenery. Change of scenery, that's what we'll call it. But, and there's still some interesting names, too, like Cole Calhoun was another guy the Rangers signed. There's still, like, Steven Matz is on here. Avisal Garcia, Raciel Iglesias, Chris Taylor. I mean, there's Kevin Gausman going to the Blue Jays, and I think the Blue Jays are going to be that team next season that's finally going to take that leap. I know it for sure. I was actually rooting them on this really this season for them to get playoffs because I like a lot of guys on their team. And they lose Robbie Ray to the Mariners, but bring in a guy like Kevin Gausman to replace that. Kevin Gausman, still a top-tier pitcher, had a phenomenal season last year. I think the Blue Jays are primed to take that step forward, not just in their division, but in the American League in general. But a lot of interesting names still out there, too. Chris Bryant's still out there. Carlos Correa's still out there. See who we got. Freddie Freeman hasn't made a deal yet. Andrew McCutchen's still there. Castellanos, Kyle Seager, Trevor Story, Michael Conforto, like I said, Trevor Rosenthal, Carlos Martinez, Yuri's Familia, Kyle Schwarber, Jorge Soler coming off a great, really a great time with the Braves. There's still a lot of great, really good position players, really good hitters. Clayton Kershaw still doesn't have a contract yet. Zach Greinke, that's still up in the air. So, I mean, there's still some a few interesting pitchers out there, but a lot of really interesting position players, man. I think Bryant's going to stay with the Giants, but there's other guys involved. I think Trevor Story's going to go. I could see him. I'm going to guess. If I'm predicting, I say Story goes to the Yankees. Bryant goes to the Giants. Carlos Correa, I'm not quite sure. If I had to think of a team, what would be a good fit for Carlos Correa? I don't even care anyway. Dude's a scumbag anyway. I don't even care. Kyle Schwarber, I think, is going to go back to the Red Sox. Jorge Soler, I think he's going to go to American League team that could really use a DH maybe. But yeah, still a lot of interesting names, but this has been a really big, crazy MLB offseason, and I haven't even gone over all the names. Like, there's still multiple names out there that still made signings, but I wanted to go over that free agency just because it was very interesting. But we'll definitely talk about it more going forward on this show, especially as we're here in December and as we go into January with more things happening around the league. And with the NFL as well in regards of, the rest of the season. It's going to get really interesting these next 4 weeks with playoff positioning. So that's going to be interesting. College basketball is underway, obviously going. That's stuff that we'll talk about as well going forward on the show. College football, some news coming out of college football. Spencer Rattler transferring to South Carolina, which a lot of people didn't see coming. But sometimes a change of scenery is needed to kind of revitalize yourself and revamp yourself. So we'll see if he bodes any better being there or not. Bryce Young winning the Heisman over Kenny Pickett, C.J. Stroud, and Hutchinson. So Bryce Young, good young talent there. He's still got a little bit of time left at Alabama. We'll see what happens there. But going forward, those are things we'll be talking. We'll be talking some NHL things as that season goes on too. Just what I'm trying to do. I don't want to make these shows too long, so that's why there might be some certain things that might happen in other areas of sports that I might not talk about on this show, just because I don't want to make the shows too long, simply because of that. But, we just try to balance everything out and see really what's relevant, what's worthy of really spending time and energy talking about. But we'll talk about all those things going forward. I do plan on being back here on Thursday. I like to aim for Thursday to be back here. I'll you guys can follow me on social media. Follow my Facebook, In Heintz site, Facebook page, Twitter, Nate_Heintz, Instagram, Nathan_Heintz. Because I'll be posting things on social media, especially being back and everything and getting the ball rolling again. We'll be updating everything, posting everything. So if you guys want to follow that, feel free. But we're going to look to be back Thursday. I just want to kind of get back in the groove of this show. And like I said, sometimes work takes things over too, which hopefully you understand. But let me know your guys' thoughts on the show in the comment section, your guys' thoughts with the upcoming, the playoff seeding. What you guys think is going to happen out of that? What you guys think is going to happen with more MLB free agency or anything else going around sports? But Thursday, we'll see what we kind of get our hands into. Like I said, I'm just trying to balance everything out. But it's good to be back, guys. Thank you all for tuning in, taking the time out of your day. I hope you guys have a good rest of your Tuesday, good rest of the week this week, and we will see you later for some more content here on In Heintz site. In the meantime, we will see you later. Talk to you later, guys.